When I first came to this country, I had nothing but dreams. Dreams for my family, for my children, for a better life. I remember the first small apartment we lived in. The walls were thin, and the winters were cold, but still, I felt warm because my husband was beside me, and my little boy, Daniel, was just learning to walk. I used to work long hours at the diner downtown. The smell of coffee and fried eggs stayed on my hands even after I came home, but I didn't care because every dollar I earned was for my family, for their comfort, for their future. My husband, Michael, was a kind man. He wasn't rich, but he had a big heart. He used to tell me, Grace, one day our kids will thank us. One day, they'll understand what it took to make this life possible. I believed him. Every time I came home tired, he would hold my hands and say, "We're doing it, Grace, together." But life doesn't always keep its promises. When Michael got sick, everything changed. It started as a cough, something we thought would pass. But within months, the doctors said it was cancer, stage 4. I still remember that day. The room spun around me. I couldn't hear anything after the doctor said, "He doesn't have much time." I tried to stay strong for the kids. Daniel was 15 then, young, angry, full of questions. And Emma, my little girl, she was only 11. She didn't understand why her dad couldn't get out of bed anymore. I worked 2 jobs. I barely slept. A night, I sat by Michael's bed, holding his hand, praying for a miracle that never came. The night he died, the world fell silent. I remember holding his face and whispering, "Don't worry, I'll take care of them. I promise." But I didn't know how hard that promise would be to keep. After the funeral, everything started falling apart. Bills kept piling up. The house felt empty, and my children, my Daniel and my Emma, started slipping away from me. Daniel stopped going to school. He started hanging around with boys I didn't recognize. I'd wait for him all night, praying he'd come home safe. Sometimes he did. Sometimes he didn't. Emma became quiet. She used to draw with me every evening, but after her father died, she stopped. She closed herself in her room, listening to music with her headphones on, pretending she couldn't hear me. I tried everything. I begged, I cried, I shouted, but nothing worked. People said, "Grace, you're strong." But they didn't know the nights I cried alone in the kitchen, whispering his name. They didn't see me counting coins, wondering if I could buy groceries and still pay the rent. And then, when my mother-in-law, Michael's mom, got sick, I took care of her too. Everyone said, "You've already done enough." But I couldn't stop. She was the last piece of him left when she passed away too. I felt like my whole world had disappeared. Still, I smiled every morning. I cooked breakfast. I went to work, because that's what mothers do. We break quietly, so our children don't have to. I kept hoping Daniel would change. I kept believing that one day he'd see what I was doing for him. But instead, he became more distant, more angry, and soon, I realized something I never wanted to admit. I was losing my son. Daniel used to be my little boy, the one who held my hand when we crossed the street, the one who used to say, "Mom, you're my hero." But somewhere along the way, that boy disappeared. After his father's death, Daniel changed. At first, I thought it was just grief, that maybe time would heal him. But time didn't heal anything. It only made the distance between us wider. He stopped talking to me, stopped coming home on time. Sometimes, he wouldn't come home at all. I'd sit on the couch, staring at the clock, praying I wouldn't get a call from the police or the hospital. The first time he came home drunk, I didn't even recognize him. His eyes were red, his voice was rough, and when I tried to speak, he shouted, "Leave me alone." Those words cut through me like a knife. He slammed the door, and I just stood there, shaking, trying not to cry too loud. I told myself, he's just hurting. He needs time. But deep down, I was scared. I started finding strange things in his room. Empty bottles, cigarette packs, and worse. When I confronted him, he laughed and said, "You wouldn't understand, Mom." And maybe he was right. Maybe I didn't. I grew up believing that love could fix everything. But now I was realizing love doesn't always fix what pain destroys. Emma tried to help too. She'd say, "Mom, don't fight with him. He'll come around." But even she began to pull away. She was growing up fast, and I could see in her eyes the fear that our home was no longer safe. Sometimes Daniel would come home in the middle of the night, smelling of smoke and trouble. I'd hear him stumble through the door, and I'd pretend to sleep because I didn't have the strength to argue anymore. I just wanted him to be alive. That was all. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months, and the boy who once hugged me before school became a stranger living under my roof. One evening, I came home early from work. The front door was open. The house was a mess, drawers pulled out, things thrown everywhere. Daniel was sitting on the floor, crying. Next to him was a small bag of something illegal. I froze. My heart broke right there. Daniel, I whispered, what have you done to yourself? He looked up at me with empty eyes and said, don't act like you care, Mom. You never understood me. I wanted to scream, I gave you my life, but the words got stuck in my throat. Instead, I just fell to my knees and held his hand. He pulled it away. That night, when I went to bed, I couldn't stop crying. I prayed to God, please, don't take my son away from me. Not like this. The next morning, he was gone. No note, no call, just silence. For days, I searched everywhere, called his friends, the police, hospitals. No one knew where he was. I went to bed every night with my phone in my hand, waiting for it to ring. 1 week later, he showed up at the door, thin, pale, lost. I ran to him, hugged him, and whispered, Daniel, please, don't do this to yourself. But he didn't hug me back. He just said, I'm only here for money, and pushed me away. That moment, I broke in ways no mother should ever break. I gave him what little I had, hoping it would bring him home again someday. But deep down, I knew he wasn't ready. He wasn't mine anymore. Every night, I looked at his old photos, the little boy smiling with missing teeth, holding his father's hand. I'd whisper, where did you go, my son? What happened to that smile? Emma would sit beside me sometimes and cry quietly. She missed her brother too, but she didn't know how to reach him. Our home became a place filled with silence, regret, and prayers that went unanswered. I tried to stay strong. At work, I smiled. At church, I said, I'm fine. But inside, I was dying a little more each day, and yet, even through the pain, I couldn't stop loving him, because no matter what he did, he was still my son. Broken, beautiful, lost boy. After Daniel drifted away from me, I tried to find comfort in Emma. She was always my quiet one, gentle, thoughtful, the kind of girl who would sit by the window and watch the rain for hours. When her father died, she didn't cry much. She just sat beside me, holding my hand, as if she was afraid that if she let go, I'd disappear too. For years, she was my strength, the one who reminded me why I had to keep going. But as time passed, I began to see something changing in her too. At first, it was small things, skipping dinner, spending more time alone, avoiding eye contact when I spoke. Then slowly, she began to build walls around herself. I remember one night, I came into her room to say goodnight. She was staring at her phone, scrolling through pictures of her friends, all smiling, all happy. I asked, sweetheart, what's wrong? She looked at me and said softly, Mom, I just wish we were normal. That sentence broke my heart. Normal? What even is normal anymore? I sat beside her and said, we may not have everything, Emma, but we have love. She smiled a little, but her eyes said something else, something tired, something lost. Days went by, and she started spending more and more time outside. At first, I was relieved. At least she wasn't trapped in sadness anymore. But soon, I realized, she wasn't happy either. Her grades started to fall. She stopped calling me from school. When I'd ask where she'd been, she'd just say, out. The same word every time, cold, short, empty. I tried to talk to her, to open her heart again, but she'd just shut her door and turn up her music. Sometimes I'd stand outside her room, listening to the songs she played, sad songs about pain, loneliness, and lost love. It was like she was trying to tell me something, but couldn't find the words. I remember one morning, she came downstairs with her makeup smudged, eyes swollen from crying. I asked, Emma, what happened? She just shook her head and said, nothing, Mom. I'm fine. But she wasn't. No one who's truly fine cries through the night. At work, I'd pretend everything was okay. I'd smile, serve customers, and come home to an empty house. Daniel was gone most nights. Emma barely spoke, and me. I just floated through the days, trying to hold everything together with shaking hands. Then one day, I found a letter on Emma's desk. It wasn't addressed to anyone, but I could tell it was meant for me. She had written, "I'm tired, Mom. Tired of pretending. I miss Dad. I miss Daniel. I miss us." I sat on her bed, reading those words over and over again, tears falling on the paper. I didn't realize how broken she'd become trying to stay strong for everyone else. That night, I made her favorite dinner, pasta with extra cheese. Just the way she liked it when she was little. I waited for her to come home, but she didn't. Hours passed, midnight came, and I started to panic. I called her friends, her school, even the police. No one had seen her. It felt like deja vu. The same fear I had when Daniel disappeared, the same helplessness, the same heartbreak. At 3 a.m., I heard a knock on the door. When I opened it, Emma was standing there, cold, scared, and crying. I ran to her, wrapped her in my arms, and whispered, "You don't ever have to run from me. Whatever it is, we'll face it together." She held me tight and said, "Mom, I didn't know what to do anymore. I felt like I was invisible." And I said, "You're not invisible, sweetheart. You're my whole world." That night, she slept beside me like she used to when she was little, her head on my shoulder, her heartbeat soft and steady. For the first time in a long time, I felt peace. But it didn't last long, because the next morning, Daniel came home again, and this time, things got worse. When Emma came back that night, I thought maybe, just maybe, our little world could start healing again. But I was wrong, because the next morning, Daniel walked through the front door. He looked older, tired, restless, with a face that carried too many regrets for his young age. He said, "Hey, Mom," like nothing had happened, and my heart didn't know whether to hug him or scream. Emma was in the kitchen when she saw him. For a moment, her face froze, shock, anger, and pain all fighting inside her eyes. Then she said, quietly, "Oh, you decided to come back." Daniel didn't reply. He just dropped his bag and said, "Can we not do this right now?" I wanted to stop them, to tell them this wasn't the time, but they were both already standing in the same storm, and I could only watch. Emma's voice cracked. "You left us, Daniel. You left me when I needed you the most." Daniel shouted back, "I didn't leave you. I just needed space, okay?" Everything was falling apart, and I couldn't breathe anymore. I stood there, frozen, listening to my children tear each other apart with words sharper than knives. I wanted to speak, but my throat was heavy with silence. Finally, I whispered, "Please, both of you, stop." They turned to me, both crying, both broken, both waiting for someone to fix what couldn't be fixed. That day, something changed in our house. It wasn't just sadness anymore. It was anger. Unspoken, buried anger that found its way into every meal, every conversation, every quiet night. Daniel tried to act like things were fine, helping out, fixing things around the house, pretending he was the same boy who used to make us laugh. But I could see through him. His eyes were hollow, his smiles forced. He was there, but not really there. And Emma, she became colder. She'd leave early, come home late, barely say a word. Sometimes I'd wake up in the middle of the night and hear her crying in the bathroom, soft, muffled sobs she thought I couldn't hear. I'd stand outside the door, whispering to myself, how did we get here? How did we become strangers in the same house? One evening, I found Daniel sitting alone on the porch. He looked at me and said, "Mom, do you ever think about Dad?" I smiled sadly. "Every day." He nodded. "I just wish he was here. Maybe we'd all be better." I said softly, "Your father would want us to find peace, Daniel, not blame ourselves forever." He looked away and said, "I don't think peace exists for us anymore." Those words stayed with me because deep down, I started to believe him. Then came the night everything fell apart. Emma came home late again, her clothes wet from the rain, her face pale. Daniel was waiting in the living room. The moment she walked in, he said, "Where were you?" She didn't answer. He stood up, angry now. "You think you can just disappear like I did? You think you're better than me?" Emma's voice rose, trembling. No, Daniel. I think I'm just trying to survive. I ran between them, shouting, "Stop, please." But they didn't stop. All the pain, all the silence, all the guilt, it exploded that night. They said things they didn't mean. Things that cut so deep I could almost feel the house breaking with us. Then Emma shouted something I'll never forget. She screamed, "You're not the only one who lost Dad." And Daniel just stood there, speechless. For the first time, he didn't fight back. He just walked out into the rain, and didn't come back that night. Emma fell to her knees, sobbing, saying, "I didn't mean it, Mom. I didn't mean it." I held her in my arms, whispering, "I know, baby. I know." That night, as thunder echoed outside, I realized something painful. We weren't fighting each other. We were fighting the ghosts of everything we'd lost. The next morning, Daniel came back, drenched, exhausted, and quiet. He didn't say a word. He just sat beside Emma, and for the first time in months, they held hands. I watched them in silence. And no words. No apologies, just a quiet understanding that maybe this was the first step toward healing. I remember thinking, maybe love doesn't fix everything. Maybe it just gives you the strength to keep trying. And for that one moment, in that small, fragile morning light, I finally believed we might find our way again. It was a quiet morning, the kind that feels heavy before anything even happens. Emma had gone to work. Daniel was still asleep upstairs, and I was sitting at the kitchen table, holding my coffee, staring at nothing. The house felt different after that stormy night. There was peace, yes, but also a deep sadness, like everyone was too tired to feel anymore. I remember whispering to myself, maybe silence is better than shouting. Then, something strange happened. While cleaning the old drawer in the hallway, the one I hadn't touched since my husband's death, I found a small, folded envelope tucked beneath a pile of forgotten papers. It was yellowed, a little torn at the edges. And on the front, in my husband's handwriting, it said, "For Mary, when you need it the most." My hands began to shake. I sat down slowly, holding the letter like it was made of glass. For a long moment, I couldn't open it. I was afraid of feeling everything all over again. But then I thought of Daniel, of Emma, and how lost we all were. Maybe this was what we needed. I opened it. The first line took my breath away. "My love, if you're reading this, I'm no longer there to tell you what I should have said more often, that you were my strength, my calm, my home." Tears rolled down my cheeks before I could even breathe. His voice echoed in my mind, steady and kind, just like it used to. "I know life will test you, Mary. You'll want to protect the kids from every pain. But don't. Let them fall, let them cry, and then hold them close. That's how they'll learn love." I pressed the letter to my chest. He always knew what to say, even from the grave. The next lines changed everything. "One day, Daniel will lose his way. Don't blame him, guide him back. And when Emma feels broken, remind her that her heart is made of the same fire that once saved me." I sobbed, because every word felt like it was written yesterday. As if he could still see us, our pain, our distance, our fragile attempt to keep going. Then came the last paragraph. "When the world feels heavy, and you think you can't hold it anymore, look at the sun, Mary. Remember, even when it sets, it always comes back. I'll be there. In every sunrise, in every breath you take, love them for both of us." I couldn't stop crying. It was like he'd reached across time and pain just to remind me that love never really dies. That night, I called Daniel and Emma to the living room. They both looked worried, maybe afraid I was about to talk about the fight again. But instead, I handed them the letter. Daniel unfolded it slowly, reading aloud. His voice trembled when he reached his father's words. When he finished, there was silence. And no one spoke for a long time. Then Emma whispered, "He knew. He knew everything." Daniel looked at me, tears in his eyes, and said, "I'm sorry, Mom." I smiled through my tears. "Don't be sorry, my son. Just come back home, really home." He nodded, and for the first time, I saw peace in his face. The same peace his father always carried. That night, we didn't talk much. We just sat together, the three of us, with that letter lying on the table between us like a bridge connecting what was lost and what could still be saved. Later, when everyone had gone to bed, I stood by the window, holding the letter one more time. Outside, the sky was quiet, no rain, no thunder. Just a soft moonlight washing over everything. I whispered into the night, "Thank you, my love. You still know how to bring us back." Then I folded the letter and placed it inside a small glass frame on the wall. Right above it, I wrote 3 words with my hand: "Still with us." From that day on, things didn't suddenly become perfect, but they became possible. Daniel started working again, taking small steps toward recovery. Emma began painting, something she hadn't done since her father died, and I began to breathe again, because now I knew love doesn't end when life does. It stays, quietly, patiently, waiting for us to open the letter when we need it the most. It's strange how one letter can change everything, not by fixing what's broken, but by reminding you that it's still worth mending. After that night, our home felt lighter. The air that once carried shouting and silence now carried something new, understanding. The letter my husband left became a kind of prayer in this house. I framed it in the living room, where sunlight touched it every morning. Every day, I would glance at it and whisper, "Help me do this right." Daniel began waking up early. And more smell of alcohol, no late nights. He still struggled, of course. Sometimes I could see the tremble in his hands, or the sadness in his eyes. But now he tried. He started helping me fix the garden again. The same one his father used to love. He'd kneel in the soil, pulling out weeds with quiet focus. And one afternoon, he said softly, "Mom, I never knew why Dad loved doing this." I smiled and replied, "Because planting something means believing in tomorrow." He nodded. That was the first time he smiled without guilt in his eyes. Emma, too, began to change. She spent hours in the old attic, painting. When I asked her what she was working on, she said, "It's a portrait of you and Dad, but with light behind you both, like you're still together." When I saw it later, I cried, because she had painted hope, not loss. One morning, I sat with both of them at breakfast, something that hadn't happened in years. Daniel poured coffee for me. Emma made pancakes. We laughed about small things, and for a moment, it felt like time had turned back to the days when my husband's laughter filled this kitchen. But I knew healing wasn't just about remembering. It was about facing what we'd avoided for so long. So I told them, "There's somewhere I want us to go. Together." The next Sunday, we drove to the old cemetery, to the place where their father had been buried 8 years ago. The car was quiet the whole way there. No music. No words. Just 3 people carrying the weight of everything left unsaid. When we reached the grave, I froze. My legs trembled as if they'd forgotten how to walk. Daniel gently held my arm. "Mom, it's okay," he whispered. I knelt down beside the gravestone, brushing off the dust and fallen leaves. His name was still carved there, strong and familiar. Michael Anderson, beloved husband and father. I placed my hand on the cold stone and whispered, "Hi, love, it's been a while." For the first time in years, I didn't cry right away. I just breathed, and for a moment, I felt like he was right there, listening. I told him everything, how hard it had been, how lost we all became, how close I came to giving up. Then I told him how the letter changed us. When I finished speaking, Daniel knelt beside me and said softly, "Dad, I'm sorry. I wasn't who you wanted me to be." His voice broke, and I held his hand. Then Emma stepped forward, laying a single white rose on the grave. She said, "I know you're proud of Mom. You'd be proud of us too, we're trying." The wind picked up, brushing through the trees. For a moment, I swear I could feel his presence, warm, calm, and gentle, like a quiet hand resting on my shoulder. We stayed there until sunset. None of us wanted to leave, but when we finally walked back to the car, there was peace, not the heavy kind that hides pain, but the kind that feels earned. That night, as we drove home through the long American road, the sky turned orange and gold. Daniel leaned back in his seat and said, "Mom, I think we're going to be okay." I looked at him and smiled. "Yes, my son, we will be. Because your father never left us, he just changed places." When we reached home, Emma hung her new painting beside the letter. The painting glowed under the soft lamplight, a portrait of us standing together, with light behind and peace between. I stood there for a long time, watching it, and I realized something. Healing isn't loud. It doesn't come all at once. It's quiet, slow, and sacred, like the sound of your own heart learning to beat again. That night, before I went to bed, I opened the window and looked at the stars. I whispered, "Thank you, Michael. We're finding our way home." And as the cool night breeze touched my face, I could almost hear his voice in the wind, soft, steady, and full of love. "I told you, Mary, you were always strong enough." They say forgiveness begins with others, but I've learned that the hardest forgiveness is the one you give yourself. Weeks passed after that day at the cemetery. The house, once filled with silence and tension, now carried a rhythm again, soft footsteps in the morning, laughter over small things, the smell of pancakes and coffee. But even with that peace, there were moments when the past still pulled at me. Sometimes I would wake in the middle of the night, hearing echoes of old arguments. Michael's voice, Daniel's anger, Emma's cries, and then the silence that followed. It would all rush back, like a storm that had been waiting behind the walls. One night, I walked into Daniel's room. He was awake, sitting on the edge of his bed, holding his father's watch, the one Michael used to wear every day. The light from the window hit his face, and I could see both regret and strength in his eyes. "Can't sleep?" I asked softly. He shook his head. "No, Mom. I keep thinking about how much I hurt you." I sat beside him. "Daniel, you were lost." "We all were. But the fact that you see it now means something." He looked down, his voice trembling. "I wasted years, Mom. I became someone I didn't even recognize." I took his hand and said, "Then use those years as a reminder, not a curse." "Your father used to say, pain only wins if you let it define you." He nodded, holding my hand tighter. That night, he told me he wanted to get real help, not just promises, not temporary change. We found a rehabilitation program in the city, a place known for its quiet countryside setting, where people rebuild their lives from the inside out. The day I dropped him off there, I cried quietly in the car. He hugged me before leaving and said, "I'll come back as the son you always believed I could be." I watched him walk through those gates, my heart breaking and healing all at once. For the next few weeks, it was just me and Emma at home. She grew even closer to me. Every evening, we would cook together. She'd tell me about her art classes, about how painting helped her make sense of her pain. One evening, she showed me her latest work, a canvas with a small figure standing in front of a storm, and behind that storm, sunlight breaking through. "It's us, Mom," she said with a smile. "The storm was our past, but look, the light's coming through." I hugged her so tightly, I could barely breathe. In that moment, I realized both my children were healing, each in their own way. 2 months later, Daniel returned home. When he stepped through the door, I could barely recognize him. His eyes were clear, his shoulders steady, his voice calm. He looked alive again. He hugged me for a long time and whispered, "I'm sorry for every night you cried because of me." Tears fell down my face. I said quietly, "Don't be sorry anymore, son. Just live the way your father wanted you to." He smiled, a real smile this time, one that reached his eyes. Over the next few days, our home slowly became what it once was, not perfect, not without scars, but whole. We would sit on the porch during golden sunsets, drinking tea, watching the wind move through the trees. Sometimes, Daniel would play old music from his father's collection, and every now and then, I could swear I heard Michael's laughter between the songs. One evening, Emma asked, "Mom, do you ever regret staying strong all those years?" I looked at her, my beautiful daughter, wise beyond her age, and replied, "No, sweetheart. Because if I had given up, we wouldn't be sitting here today." She smiled, then leaned her head on my shoulder. The sun was setting, painting the sky in gold and crimson, and in that quiet, I whispered to myself, This is what forgiveness feels like." Later that night, I stood in front of the mirror. For the first time in many years, I saw not a broken woman, but a survivor. A mother who had lost everything and somehow rebuilt her world piece by piece. I placed my hand over my heart and whispered, "Michael, I kept my promise. Our children are finding their way back. And so am I." The wind moved softly through the open window, And in that silence, I felt his presence once again, steady, warm, and full of pride. I closed my eyes and smiled, because for the first time, forgiveness wasn't something I was trying to earn. It was something I already had. There comes a moment in life when silence feels like the only way to speak. After everything we went through, the pain, the distance, the tears, I realized there were still words I needed to say, not out loud, but on paper. So1 quiet morning, I made myself a cup of coffee, sat by the same old window where I used to cry for hours, and opened a blank notebook. At the top of the page, I wrote, "A letter to tomorrow." I wanted to write something not for the past, but for the days still waiting for us. Dear tomorrow, I began. If you're reading this, it means we made it through the storm. There were nights when I thought we wouldn't, when Daniel was lost in his darkness, when Emma couldn't find her smile, when I could barely breathe without feeling the weight of the world on my chest. But here we are, still standing, still breathing, still loving. Life didn't give us peace in a pretty box, it gave us chaos, heartbreak, and lessons written in pain. And somehow, through all of it, we learned how to live again. As I wrote, tears filled my eyes, not of sorrow, but of relief. Because for the first time in years, I wasn't writing to survive. I was writing to remember. I wrote about Michael, how his absence had shaped us more than his presence ever could, how his quiet strength still guided me every time I felt lost. I wrote about Daniel, my beautiful boy who once broke everything he touched, but who now uses those same hands to rebuild what he destroyed. And I wrote about Emma, my daughter who learned that love isn't weakness and pain isn't forever. She had become my mirror, showing me the beauty of endurance. Then I wrote something for myself. A message I wish someone had told me years ago. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to heal. You are allowed to let go of the guilt for not being perfect. Because I spent too many years trying to be everything: a mother, a father, a friend, a shield. And in doing so, I forgot that I was human too. That evening, I called Daniel and Emma to the living room. We sat together, just the three of us, surrounded by quiet and candlelight. I said, "There's something I want to share with you." And I read that letter aloud. Daniel's eyes filled with tears halfway through. Emma held my hand the whole time, her thumb tracing small circles on my palm. When I finished, there was silence. Then Daniel whispered, "Mom, you've always been our tomorrow." I couldn't speak. I just smiled through my tears. After they went to bed, I stepped outside onto the porch. The sky was dark, but filled with stars, the same stars I used to look at when I begged the universe for strength. And I whispered, "Thank you, God, for letting me see the light after all this darkness." In that moment, I felt peace deeper than words. Forgiveness had softened me, love had rebuilt me, and hope had finally returned home. A week later, I mailed copies of my letter to both Daniel and Emma, not because they needed to remember my pain, but because I wanted them to remember our journey. Remember that family isn't about perfection. It's about showing up, again and again, even after everything falls apart. I ended my letter with these words: "When life breaks you, let it. Because that's how the light gets in." And underneath it, I signed with "Love, Mom." As I closed my notebook that night, I realized something profound. The story of our family wasn't a tragedy. It was a resurrection. We had fallen, yes, deeper than I ever thought possible. But we had also risen, not as the same people, but as something stronger, softer, and truer. And as I turned off the lamp and looked at our home, the home that had once echoed with anger and sorrow, I smiled. When the police called me that night, I already knew something terrible had happened. My hands were shaking so much I could barely hold the phone. They said, "Ma'am, your son was found unconscious near the bridge." I drove like a madwoman through the rain, praying, crying, begging God not to take him from me. When I reached the hospital, I saw him broken, pale, lost. The boy I had given my life for was now fighting for his own. I sat beside his bed, holding his hand, and for the first time in years, he whispered, "Mom, I'm sorry." Tears fell down my face, not out of anger, but out of relief, because finally, he remembered who I was. That night, I didn't sleep. I just looked at him, thinking about every sacrifice. Every night I stayed hungry so he could eat. Every time I lied to the world just to protect his name, and now, seeing him lying there, I realized something. A mother's love can survive even the worst storms, but sometimes love must let go to save itself. So when morning came, I whispered in his ear, "I forgive you, my son, but now you must forgive yourself." He opened his eyes, weak but alive, and for the first time, I saw peace in his face. Pause. Maybe this is what healing looks like. Not perfect, not easy, but real. And as the sunlight entered the hospital room, I finally felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. After weeks in the hospital, my son slowly began to recover. The doctors said he was lucky to be alive, but I knew it wasn't luck. It was mercy. Mercy that life had finally shown him. And maybe me too. He started talking again. Quietly. He said, "Mom, I don't deserve your forgiveness." I looked at him and replied softly, "You don't have to deserve it, my son. You just have to start over." Every morning, I would bring him breakfast. He'd smile, a real smile, one I hadn't seen since he was a child. Sometimes we didn't talk much, just sitting there, sharing silence. Felt like healing. My daughter visited too. She held her brother's hand and cried. For the first time, our family sat together. Not perfect, not whole, but together. And in that moment, I felt something stronger than pain. I felt peace. When he finally came home, I watched him sleep on the same couch he once broken. Anger, and I thought, maybe God never abandoned us. Maybe he was waiting for this, for us to see love again, beyond all the scars. That night, before sleeping, I stood by his door and whispered, "My son, I've done all I could. The rest is yours now." Then I turned off the light and smiled. For years, I cried myself to sleep, but not that night. That night, I finally rested. Because even if tomorrow brings pain again, I know we survived the worst. And sometimes, surviving is the miracle. Soft pause. My name doesn't matter. My story is just one among millions. But if any mother out there is listening, please know this. Even when your child forgets you, even when the world turns cold, your love still has power, because a mother's love never really ends.